You will not be unarrested no matter what those results show. You will not be unarrested no matter what your blood, breath, or urine results show in a DUI.
A Rutherford County deputy is being criticized tonight for arresting and charging a sober driver with DUI. Good evening, I'm Arias Payton.
I'm Lauren Lowry. And I'm Tracy Cornett. This deputy was just awarded a top honor by Mothers Against Drunk Driving for arresting the highest number of suspected drunk drivers. Our chief investigative reporter, Jeremy Finley, continues his reporting into how sober people are getting DUIs in Tennessee. Okay, so Jeremy, you just keep finding more innocent people charged with this crime.
Yeah, we sure do.
So this case they're talking about here, it's from Tennessee, but this is something we see in Florida. This is something we see around the nation. And the first thing they stated is that this officer is recognized by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. That's mad. And it's actually a point that we cross-examine all the DUI officers in our case in trial, which is that MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they give awards out to officers based off the numbers of DUI arrests, not DUI convictions. It's something I cross-examine officers on. Even if every single arrest that you made was found to be unlawful through the courts, Mothers Against Drunk Driving would still give you the award. And to be clear, they're not just getting a medal. There's a banquet, they're getting a hotel room, they're having a weekend with their friends and usually their loved ones that's paid for by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It's an incentive to lie. And when you're looking at the jury instructions in Florida, 3.9, whether or not a witness was given anything and whether or not they have an interest in the outcome of the case, they 100% have an interest in the outcome of the case. These officers want to make DUI arrests because they get awards. And it's a game. Once you add awards to things, it becomes a game. And it becomes, I need to win. And that's what we see. And that's what it sounds like that's happening with this officer.
And they are all suffering not only from the humiliation of being charged with a DUI while they're sober, but they have to wait months for blood tests to come back to clear their name. In our investigations, we've been looking closely.
So waiting months for blood tests to come back, 100% true. One thing that everyone should know, after you are arrested for DUI is the only time you'll be offered to give a blood, breath, or urine sample, depending on the facts of your case. You will not be unarrested no matter what those results show. You will not be unarrested no matter what your blood, breath, or urine results show in a DUI. Your case may get dismissed down the road, but you're not going to get unarrested. The breath results will come that evening. They will know after they arrested you, right after you give the breath test, what your results are. And if you blow a 0.00, you're still going to be arrested. If you blow a 0.00, they're then going to ask you to do a urine test, or to do a urine test most likely, because they're going to say, oh, well, I thought it was alcohol, but I must have been wrong. It must be some other type of drug that I can only see in your urine. They're not getting those results back for another 30 days. That's why most of our clients, if they do blow 0.00, they decide not to do the urine test because they're like, what's the point? You already arrested me. I'm not going to help you one way or the other at this point. It doesn't do me any good.
At the body cameras of these arrests and found troubling similarities. There's a joke around the pool halls in Rutherford County about what David Dutton doesn't shoot.
But kidding me about me being drunk, and they all know that I don't drink.
So you can imagine what his son thought when he got a call from his dad last August.
He said, I got arrested last night. And I said, wait, what?
Saying he'd been arrested for a DUI after playing pool.
So my first was just like, okay, like, what could you have done? You're 75 years old. I know he doesn't drink.
But after being pulled over for a missing headlight and for drifting off the shoulder, Dutton was arrested for DUI, booked, and spent hours in jail. It would take 5 months.
So spending hours in jail, it's a very important thing to know. It's not like other crimes. For DUI, the Florida statute actually has a hold, basically kind of like the drunk tank that you would think of, where you're required to spend at least 6 hours in jail. Even if there's already a posted bond. In Broward County, you're talking about a $500 bond for a first-time DUI with no aggravating facts. You're still gonna have to sit for 6 hours before you can bond out.
For the test results to come back, showing he was completely sober the entire time.
The stress level was really bad, and I thought, wow, this is actually how I lose my dad. You know, I thought he would have a heart attack.
And the officer who arrested him, Deputy Zach Williams, was awarded the 2023 Top Enforcer Honor in the county by Mothers Against Drunk Driving for charging the most drivers, 51 with DUIs, the previous year. by the numbers, an expert on identifying suspected drunk drivers. So how did an expert then charge an innocent man with a crime? And why are we finding case after case of it happening to other sober drivers throughout Middle Tennessee? Well, body camera footage reviewed by WSNV4 Investigates shows a common theme that could explain why it's happening. Take a look. Not only did Dutton offer up his debit card instead of his ID when officers approached, he repeatedly stumbles during the field sobriety test.
I was just not balanced. Gotcha.
But Dutton also acknowledges his medical problems. He's diabetic, hadn't taken his insulin that night, and suffers from a slipped disc.
So you've been dealing with...
So diabetes should be an alarm going off to any DUI officer. Once they're actually trained before they start a DUI investigation, ask medical questions. One of the ones that in Broward County or in South Florida that they have to ask is whether or not somebody is diabetic. Diabetes is the only disease that mirrors impairment to such a level that there is almost no difference between the two. In fact, if you're going through a diabetic episode, the smell that is created by that diabetic episode is similar to the odor of alcohol. So if someone says I have diabetes and I haven't taken my insulin that day, huge red flag to that officer that maybe I should be doing more questions, I should ask more questions, or I should be doing more follow-up answers. We also heard he said that he has a slipped disc. They're also officers are also trained to ask whether or not you have any medical injuries that would prevent you from doing these exercises. A lot of people answer no to this question, even when it's yes, for two reasons. One, they don't know what the exercises are. I don't know what's going to affect me or not going to affect me if I don't know what the test or what the exercises are. So people just don't answer. Two, people are nervous. They're nervous. They just want to, hey, I'm fine. We just got to get through it. I know I'm going to do a good job. I'm not drunk. Let's just, if I say I'm fine, we'll just get to the next exercise. And the things that we see oftentimes with these exercises is sober people in non-stressful situations will show enough indicators of impairment that a DUI officer would arrest them. So if I were to have you do the exercises and you're sober and you're in your house, no flashing lights, we're not on the side of the road with cars driving by us, there's no fear you're going to be arrested, you're likely still going to mess up because you've never done this before. Maybe you don't have great balance. You're still going to mess up and you're going to show those indicators, and you get just a little bit of indicators on each one, and that's going to end up in a DUI arrest.
Dealing with a disc for 45 years? Oh, yeah.
Even though the deputy notes Dutton says he does not have any other physical restrictions, Dutton's son says his 75-year-old father forgot to mention one major issue.
My dad has had vertigo for 10 years.
Here's why that's important. We found sober drivers getting DUIs often have health problems that can impact how they perform on field sobriety tests. William Rose is bow-legged. Bill Shank and Katie Slayton have ADHD, which makes it harder to pay attention to instructions. But there's also this. Before
the ADHD one is interesting, hard to pay attention to instructions. You have to remember these are divided attention tests, meaning the whole point of them is the officer is going to be demonstrating the exercises while saying them out loud to you. And if you have ADHD, or maybe you're just nervous because you're being investigated for a crime by police and this never happened to you before, it's going to be pretty hard for you to pay attention and stay focused. And oftentimes we see the mistakes that people make on these exercises is they just didn't understand the instructions. And when they were asked, do you understand them? They didn't realize how meticulously they were going to be graded. So they just said yes, or like, yeah, I understand. I got to walk on a straight line. They didn't realize, if I miss heel to toe and I don't count out loud, that's two clues. 2 clues for that one is considered non-satisfactory, and that's enough to get arrested for.
Before Dutton was even given a field sobriety test, listen to what officers say about people who shoot pool.
Never known a sober person to shoot much pool. Oh, I know.
If you show up on a crime...
It's interesting that comment was made on body-worn camera. So what we often see in our cases here at the Rawson Law Firm is we see officers who know that they're wearing body-worn camera and they know how to turn it off. So what you'll hear usually is going offline for officer case discussion, and then we don't get to hear the conversation. What I have seen, and we've seen a lot here at the Rawson Law Firm, is either body-worn camera that they forget to turn off, or I've seen one where they were off when they were on and they were on when they were off. So all I heard was case discussions. And the case discussions I heard was, yeah, this case doesn't have enough. It's probably going to get thrown out by the state attorney's office, but we're just going to make an arrest. And you hear things like that. You hear things like that because it got caught on a video, and you wonder, How much are we not hearing from these officers? How many improper statements are they making that we just don't get to hear because they know how to turn their body-worn cameras off? The fact that, oh, he's shooting pool, he must be intoxicated, ridiculous. Ridiculous that a trained DUI officer would be making such a comment like that, and surprising that he let it happen while he was on body-worn camera. If he's willing to say that on body-worn camera, imagine what he's saying off body-worn camera.
Crime scene looking for someone to arrest, you will find someone to arrest.
Murfreesboro attorney Scott Kimberly did not represent Dutton, but estimates he's had 10 to 15 sober clients arrested for DUI and believes too often officers feel they must make an arrest, even if a driver acknowledges health problems.
Increase training to help explain to officers what non-substance abuse, non-alcohol, non-drug explanations could exist for what may otherwise look like criminal conduct.
We wanted to talk to Rutherford County Sheriff's Office and especially Deputy Zach Williams, but their spokeswoman denied that request, writing in part,
Interesting. The police were asked to give a statement, and they said not to give a statement. You should follow the same advice. Invoke your Fifth Amendment rights. Don't give a statement to law enforcement.
We understand that in some rare cases, blood tests return indicating no drugs or alcohol. In those cases, the charges are dismissed. But that does not mean that probable cause did not exist at the time of the arrest. Probable cause that made this pool shark sink to a new level of humiliation.
It was embarrassing because I had to call a neighbor, was my cousin really, lives 2 doors down from me, to come and get me at 3 o'clock in the morning and tell him I was in jail.
Okay, so Jeremy, are police officers even required to conduct a medical assessment before you're asked to do a field sobriety test?
Well, they are, Lauren. One of them is what you're seeing here. It shows how well you can follow an object with your eyes. And Mr. Dutton actually passed that test and then failed the field sobriety test.
It's interesting that they said that he passed the eye exam, which is the horizontal gaze nystagmus. On its own, of all the exercises, it's considered to be the most accurate because it's testing your nervous system. So as long as you don't have anything that affects your nervous system, it's supposed to be more accurate. Again, if the officer doing it is administering it properly. If they're not administering it properly, who knows? And it's one of the ones that we can't, on body-worn camera, we can't really challenge as much the clues they see because they're in the eye and it's so minor and such a small detail that usually we don't get the right camera angle because the officer's too low. Their car camera doesn't pick it up, and usually there's not going to be another officer on the side at a good enough angle for us to catch it. So if that officer is allowed to testify about that, which most officers aren't, you have to be called a drug recognition expert in Florida to testify about that. It's one of the more challenging ones for us to fight. We're still able to challenge it. But when you see that someone scores 0 out of 6 clues on the horizontal gaze nystagmus, that should, again, be a huge red flag for an officer that this person's probably not impaired. We also didn't hear in that case, was there an odor of alcohol or not? Be very curious that this person that we now know is sober, did this officer just write in his report that there was an odor of alcohol? Because every report we read with a DUI, whether or not there's an odor, it's mentioned in a police report because it's not anything we can fight with body-worn camera. We're not there. We can't ever challenge that. So it's something that you typically see in DUI reports. Whether it's there or not, we can't tell you.
Kimberly say it's time for training statewide on DUI arrests to focus more on potential other reasons people fail the test. Tracy?
Wow. Jeremy Finley tonight, thank you.
More than just more training, what we also need is a change in the laws. So our legislature could decide what the threshold level is to start a DUI investigation and what a threshold level is to arrest someone for DUI. Right now, the courts have really decided what that is, the reasonable suspicion and the probable cause standard. If we're seeing that these arrests are happening and to a lot of innocent people, that's something our legislature could look at changing and increase the standard or define, hey, this is now what probable cause is for a DUI, so that way these innocent people aren't being arrested. If we're finding that this is becoming a huge pandemic, a huge problem, it's something that our government should address so that people aren't being locked up and having criminal cases started against them for almost no reason or because they have medical issues. We have a client right now who's faced with a DUI charge very similar to this man. He actually is diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, and he had the documents with him in the car to try to show the cop. The cop didn't care. The cop made him do the same exact exercises, the walk and turn, the one leg stand. This guy just told you he has MS. Do you even understand what that is? No. Did you ask any follow-up questions? No. Did you review the documentation? No. You spent 15 or 20 minutes with him. He didn't do well on your exercises, the same exercises you would give any normal person, but this isn't a normal person. And you said, he didn't do a good job. I'll arrest him. Let the courts figure it out. Irreparably changing this man's life. This man who's never been arrested for a crime before, who now has to hire an attorney, who now has to deal with the stress of fighting this case for the next few months of his life. Officers need to do better. They need to ask the appropriate medical questions. If there is a medical diagnosis, they need to know about it to understand it. It's not enough to just know, oh, this person's diabetic, but what does that mean in a DUI investigation? What further follow-up can I do to make sure that I'm making a correct arrest in this case? And we're not seeing it. We're seeing officers willing to make arrests to get awards. Well, if you're sober and you got arrested for DUI, you should absolutely hire a DUI attorney, because obviously the allegations against you are that you weren't sober. It's going to be up to us in the court system to prove it. Even though you're innocent until proven guilty, they've already made the allegations against you. We have to get on the offense and fight. And because you're sober, there's going to be multiple different ways we can fight that. Maybe you were at a restaurant and we have a copy of your receipt and there's no alcohol in that receipt. That's great evidence. Maybe we have defense witnesses, great evidence. Maybe we can go and get your medical records and show why they believe you were intoxicated when you have a medical condition. We've gone to trial and I've called my client's neurologist to the stand and had him testify about his medical conditions in order to show that my client wasn't DUI, but in fact was suffering a seizure. So these are things that where we have sober clients who are charged and arrested with DUI, where we have to fight. Sometimes we have to fight even harder because we have more evidence that we have that's favorable to us, and we have to do the right thing for our clients. If you get arrested for a DUI, you're accused of a DUI, you have a pending DUI case, please give us a call at the Rawson Law Firm so that we can help you. 754-206-6200.